And we are live for a new episode of the Electric Podcast. I am Fred Lambert, your host, and as usual, I'm joined by Seth Winchild, live from New York. How are you doing, Seth?
I'm good.
All right, I hope you're good because we have a big show this week. Obviously, the Tesla earnings created a lot of new information that we're going to communicate with you today, but also a bunch of other news. Seth got the F-150 Lightning, as we discussed last week, and he took it on a little towing test that's going to be interesting to discuss later on in the show. There was the GMC Sierra EV that also was launched. We're going to take a look at that. We have the also the Rolls Royce, that's first electric vehicles from Rolls Royce. We're going to discuss that a little bit, but let's start with the earnings result, with financial result themselves. It was a bit of a miss on revenue. The street was expecting $22 billion in revenue. Tesla came in at around 21.5, so $500 million miss. It's a significant one. I think there was already the delivery miss on the expectation. Tesla came in about 20,000 units under the expectation. So I think the Wall Street had a little issues adjusting the revenue with the delivery miss, even though they had 3 weeks to do it.
Yeah.
Um, they're not perfect on that front. So, but on the profit side, on earnings per share, Tesla beat the expectation by 5 cents per share. They came in at $1.05 versus straight dollar, a flush dollar, which is significant. That's a 5% beat right there. It's no joke in terms of earnings. Like a dollar per share doesn't sound that much anymore, but like you have to keep in mind that with the split that happened last quarter, like a dollar per share, it's like $3 per share before the split. So it's significant. Record everything basically, because even though it was a miss on revenue, it's still a record revenue for Tesla, due to the record in deliveries. So operating free cash flows, before we knew about the delivery miss, I was saying that Tesla was gonna probably come in with a $4 billion free cash flow this year. It's actually 3.3 billion because of the miss, but still, like, Tesla is generating cash like crazy right now. There's just no doubt about it. An important metric to keep track of is the gross margins. Came in at 27.9, the same as last quarter. It's a little bit down from earlier this year where Tesla was hitting the 30% gross margin, but it's still an auto industry leading gross margin. There's no doubt about that. So let's jump into all the pieces of news that were released throughout the. I've been staying on the financials. I think we're going to start with Elon when he said about the valuation of the company, because I think it was clear because it was one of the first thing that he said in the conference call. And of course, if you've been a Tesla investors in the last few months, it's been hard. Like the stock has gotten a beating, but that's the rest of the market also is getting a beating. Like this looks like we're entering a recession right now, and the market has felt it. So it's not just Tesla, but like a lot of things, Tesla being volatile, it's often you see the impact even greater on Tesla. And that led him to, in my opinion, clearly some damage control at the early in the call, especially with the revenue miss that hit the aftermarket. Tesla was like down 5% after the release. So Elon looked like in complete like damage control in terms of Tesla's valuation, which led to first. Well, to be fair, that wasn't reactive because the board had to talk about that beforehand. So I'm sure it's been in the work for a little bit. But the stock buyback, he announced that Tesla is actually going to launch a $5 to $10 billion share buyback program. If you're not familiar with that, that's a company is simply buying back their shares from the public market, which reduce the outstanding shares available for the public to buy. It also increases demand for the stock, just by, again, 5 to 10 billion. It hasn't been the plan is not concrete yet, but Elon communicated that the board has talked about it, as everyone seems on board with it. So they're going to move forward after a formal proposal. So yeah, that's normally some kind of indication that the company believes that their stocks is undervalued. So Tesla is trading about $200 a share right now after doing the split. After the split, they were going to like 290, 297, something like that. So Tesla has basically lost $100 like 25%, 30% of the value over the last since the stock split. It's not good. So that shows a little bit of confidence. And then where the hype came in is Elon came in with his own prediction in terms of Tesla's market capitalization, saying that he sees he reminiscent on his previous prediction that Tesla is going to surpass Apple in value. Uh, but here's the little caveat, though. So when he said that a few years ago, Apple was worth about $700 billion. So and now he kind of like says like mission accomplished, and now that Tesla, it's at least when he was talking about it, Tesla was worth about $700 billion. Now I think it's like 650 or something. But he was saying like mission accomplished, even though Apple is not worth anything near $700 billion right now. But apparently, he was talking about, oh, we can achieve the current valuation of Apple. And now that apparently it's mission accomplished, he set a new expectation that he thinks that Tesla can be more valuable than Apple's current valuation, which is about 2.3 trillion with a T. On top of it, he said it can be valued more than Apple and Saudi Aramco combined. So Saudi Aramco is one of the biggest oil producer in the world, and it's also worth about the same as Apple, over $2 trillion with a T. So he's saying that Tesla could be worth over $4 trillion. And he added that that's without Optimus. Like Optimus is like a bonus to that. So if the Optimus program is successful, let's add up another $2 trillion to the thing. I don't know.
So that sounds a little bit like a stock pump to me.
A little bit.
I mean, yeah. So I mean, it's absolutely true. Like it could be. A lot of things would have to happen. Like no other EVs, companies would have to be good. I think they would have to really score with FSD.
Yeah, they would have to solve full self-driving for that to happen.
Right, and nobody else would also have to solve. Like they would have to be the only ones to have full self-driving. I think that would maybe put them in that kind of classification. But as we know, other companies are doing pretty good.
Well, I think not to interrupt you, but just to clarify, I like we know like Waymo already operates like in Phoenix and San Francisco. Now we learned this week they're expanding to Los Angeles and everything. I like these services. I think are gonna work. Like it looks clearly like that these are gonna be successful transportation service. So I think these can exist. Like, but for Tesla to be like crazy successful like that, I think they need to be the only one that have the full self-driving that like you can buy the car,
right?
Because you cannot buy a Waymo. You're never going to be able to buy a Waymo, but you can buy a Tesla, and then if it does become full self-driving and it's your own car, and then you put the Tesla network into that, I think if Tesla is the only one to have that at scale, then yeah, I mean you can set the one self-driving, and it's not that there's not any other companies that figure out self-driving, but there are these fleet that need a lot of management, like Waymo and Cruise, for example.
You don't think Waymo's gonna try to get their technology into consumer vehicles?
Maybe they're gonna get it, but I like Waymo is like way more careful of a company than Tesla, to say the least. And if they do, they might do some kind of approach like similar to what Tesla did at the beginning. Like, oh, it's about safety, so we're gonna deploy some technology that is gonna make the cars a lot safer. And maybe they're gonna license that to some automakers that they're gonna decide to go with it. But from what I can see right now from Waymo, I think they're just gonna keep doing what they're doing right now, which is expanding to a new market, like scan the hell out of a market of a specific region. Like right now, they are doing it with downtown LA and Hollywood, West Hollywood, and a few other area in the greater area LA, and then deployed vehicle on there to offer a service like a Uber service in a city. And I think they're gonna keep expanding with that, and maybe one day they're gonna reach a level that's like, oh, you can get a Waymo from LA to Austin, Texas, or whatever. But for now, I think that's like way further in the future. Like Tesla's approach is obviously like you can criticize it of whether it's going to happen or not, but it's obviously a lot more ambitious than that.
Yep, definitely more ambitious.
But if you just take, that's the thing though, if you just take the vehicle business, the selling car business, if you believe Tesla's ramp up to 20 million units, and if Tesla has any credibility at all, it's on the ramp up of the electric vehicle production. Like that's where they have the most credibility, and not only like as a company itself, like compared to the other vehicle programs and other FSD programs and all that they have less credibility on now, especially on the timeline front. They have more credibility than any other companies in doing that. Like they are incredible at ramping up production. Even companies like Ford, who's has 100 years of experience in ramping up production of vehicles, they're having issues in electric vehicle ramp up. So this has a lot of credit on that. If they get to 20 million units, I mean, with a million units right now, they are generating, what is it? Nine, three. It's over like 10 billion of free cash flows per year with a million unit. Imagine 20 million unit. Uh, that's an insane cash flow that they're producing. And then there's like the supercharger aspect. That I think supercharger is going to be a huge business, especially when they open to other EVs and all that. In like 5-6 years, that's going to be like a multi-billion-dollar business too, a year. So there's a lot of growth opportunity. I'm still very
Energy.
much.
Yep.
Yeah. Energy front is like we barely tapped into the energy front too right now. It's just the energy front. I think a little bit more issues with the way Elon's talking about. Oh, it could be just as big as their vehicle business, but we don't. We see the energy scale. Tesla is incredible. We can discuss that too. Tesla had an incredible quarter for energy storage deployment. I think they deployed 2.1. They said, yeah, 2.1 gigawatt hour. It's not only a record, it's like a massive record. It's like half a gigawatt hour more than the previous record. So on that front, on the solar, on the actual like energy generation front, we don't see that much growth, and it's hard to see it like an exponential growth like the Tesla vehicles, because you're gonna have to have staff to install those. Like it's the solar deployment. It's all about the installation rate, and Tesla would need to hire like tens of thousands more people to have and kind of scale that would match their vehicle business, in my opinion.
Yeah, and whenever there's like a bottleneck in supplies, the energy business always gets constrained. They always lose out to the automotive business. You
Mhm.
know, there's not enough batteries. Power walls don't get any batteries for a while. That kind of thing.
Yeah, and now that's what we're seeing right now with the 2.1 gigawatt hour. We see a ramp up, and Tesla wasn't kidding when they said like, "Oh, batteries is not a problem this year," because they're having enough for both the vehicle programs and the stationary energy storage. And we're hearing that the mega factory in California that produces the mega pack is doing like very good. Like they are ramping up extremely fast right now. They're not quite at the 40 gigawatt hour per year that they're talking, but they might get there very fast. And I would predict that Q4 is going to be even bigger than the giant record that they had in Q3, because obviously, like the ramp up of Mega Factory is extremely recent, and it takes a while for that to show up in the deployment because Tesla produces them, but then they have to deliver them. The project need to be commissioned and everything, so it's all ordeal. So maybe I think we're going to see a ramp up in Q4, but 2023 might be the year of a stationary storage for Tesla. Just not solar yet. I would like to see solar pick up a little bit. All right, probably the biggest news that came out of the whole, even though it was just like one or two sentences that Elon said, is the next generation electric car platform for Tesla. So this one has kind of been in a little bit questionable, like what's going to happen with that, because the plan sounded like it was always okay. We have the Roadster, very expensive, Model S, a little bit cheaper, Model 3 Y, a little bit cheaper, and then even cheaper car. And then, of course, over the last few years, Elon has been talking about a $25,000 Tesla vehicle that would have a giant impact on the EV adoption, because it would increase the access to the market, to the EV market, by just having a much cheaper, like basically like we have 25,000 vehicle right now. We have been talking a lot about the Bolt EV, of course, but the Bolt
Yep.
EV is extremely limited in terms of the output. Though we are hearing good thing about 2023 with going from like 40,000 units to 77, I think, thousand units that they are making for next year. So there's going to be bigger availability. But of course, if Tesla launch a $25,000 car, it's going to be a car that they want to sell millions of units per year. It's as simple as that. So
Yep.
it's completely game changer. Like, oh, we already have $25,000 car and it's not selling in the millions. Yeah, you're not producing in the millions either. So that's a big difference. But
Yeah.
then, wait.
Just real quick, I just got a bolt for my mom, and we're actually looking at other bolts. There's a 4 to 6 month wait for all the bolts in my area right now. 4 to 6 months. Like that's the middle of 2023 for, yeah, not beginning, but like into spring to get a bolt right now. And it seems kind of, like we're not reporting it because we don't have any like solid evidence of this, but it seems like every bolt that's possibly be bought is being bought right now at that $25,000 price
And a
point.
lot of them much higher than MSRP too.
Right.
Yeah. So
And
coming back to the yeah.
the one last thing is that at I think in December or January 1st, they're going to get some tax credit, but probably not the full tax credit, depending on GM's battery situation.
Yeah, well, we get a lot of questions about that, like what car gonna get what rebate. Everything is it's super muddy situation right now. A lot of automakers are still waiting for the final guidelines that will answer that question, and I think they're expected soon. But Tesla did say during their earnings that they do expect to get the full credit on. They didn't specify which variants, obviously, but on some variants, I would assume. I don't think they assume that all cars are going to be able to get it. But yeah. Um, this is the question that everyone wants answer to, and I think a lot of the makers don't even have those answers. But coming back to the $25,000 Tesla, it looked like it was happening. I mean, there was a lot of momentum last year, earlier this year, about it, where Tesla was like even doing like a design contest in China because the goal was to produce the car in China, and they had the open like an engineering center there, design studio there, and they were like going to make that $25,000 car happen. But then 2022 happened, and Elon said, "You know what? The R&D focus right now is all on Optimus and on ramping up Model Y production with the new, not the whole new platform, but the Model Y. This has introduced a lot of new casting, bigger casting technology, and all that in there, making a big difference. So there's a lot of R&D that went into that." So he said Tesla, in January of this year, he said Tesla is not working on a $25,000 car anymore. Then Elon also had made some comments that make it sound like it won't even be in the works. Like Tesla is not going to be aiming to make a cheaper vehicle because of full self driving, reducing the cost per mile so much that he believes that going towards self-driving is going to be a best option for people that are looking for cheap transportation option because they're just going to use a Tesla network, or which is the Uber like service that Tesla wants to deliver with self-driving vehicles. That's going to be cheaper than owning a car. But now it looks like it's back in the plans. We saw some inklings of that with Elon saying that he's embarrassed by Tesla's pricing right now, which obviously a lot of it is inflation and all that, but he wants a cheaper Tesla vehicle. And during the earnings call, he was asked about like what's happening right now with the cheaper Tesla, and he said it's the primary focus of our new vehicle development team. Obviously, at this point, we are done with the engineering for Cybertruck and Semi. So it's obviously what we're working on, the next generation vehicle, which will be probably about half the cost of the Model 3 and a Y platform. It will be smaller, to be clear. So a smaller platform that enables smaller cars, but that are much cheaper. So he's kind of walking away from the $25,000 price target, it sounds like, but he's saying about half the cost of Model 3 and Model Y. So technically, the Model 3 starts at $47,000. So 25,000, even less than $25,000 could still be in the plans. But I would put something between 25 and 35 just to be sure. Um, that would be a safer bet. he had it to, obviously we are going to take everything we learned from SX3Y Cybertruck and Semi into that platform. But when we are on a 2-for-1 target, we're trying to get 50% of the cost number again. So a 50% improvement in cost. And that's throughout Zachary Kirkhorn as a CFO kind of expanded a little bit of that. That's the cost of like capital expenditure to and everything. They want like have the space, have the factory space too, then Model 3 and Y. So Tesla is really like betting heavy on the manufacturing aspect of it. They want a design of a vehicle platform that's just super easy to manufacture in order to keep the cost down and enable a cheaper electric car. So I was really happy to hear that it's back in the plans and everything. It's just he was asked about product announcement and everything. He says, nah, this is not the place for a product announcement. We understand that. I'd be curious to see if there's any link between that supposed like robo-taxi platform coming up and new cheaper platform. Like, because robo-taxi wasn't mentioned at all in the earnings. And we know that at the annual shareholder meeting earlier this year, Elon kind of announced it that this is going to do a robo-taxi, like a dedicated robo-taxi vehicle.
Well,
So I don't know if these.
it makes sense. You really don't want like a 0 to 60 in 3 seconds robo taxi, right?
Yeah.
So,
But you know, do you want it smaller though? You don't want it
well,
smaller than Model 3, Model Y.
yeah, I mean, I guess the platform, I don't know.
Well,
I guess,
if it's optimized, if it's a smaller, but it's optimized for a taxi service, like if there's literally no driver's seat or whatever,
right.
like you can probably optimize it to make it like fit 4 or 5 person in there. But I don't know.
Yeah, it's like that cruise thing that was built on the Bolt platform. It's like a big, you know, it's like a train car almost.
Because a Model Y is great for like a taxi service too. You remember? Have you ever tried in New York the Revel Model Y?
No, I've seen those everywhere, but every time I'm in New York, I see at least one of them.
I tried them last time I was there a few
Oh yeah,
months ago, and I was expecting like because they announced that they modified the Model Y to make it more like they removed the front passenger seat and everything, so like you have like you can basically lounge in the if you're like alone in the back and everything. But apparently they gave up on that, so it's just
Hmm,
plain old regular Model Y, which is fine because when you used it, we were like 4 of us, so we needed that front seat.
that's good.
Yeah, so yeah, cheaper vehicle platform coming from Tesla at half the price of the Model 3 Model Y platform. That's the goal. Very important too, we got an update on the progress on the 4680 battery cells. Tesla is always vague about that. So what they said this time is that the total number of 4680 cells produced, which put on parentheses, cells sent to formation. So this is the last step. I think these sit around for a while. Increased 3 times sequentially in Q3. So 3 times more cells were produced in Q3 than in Q2, which would be super impressive if we knew how many cells Tesla produced in Q2. But as far as we know, they produced 1 cell in Q2 and 3 in Q3. Obviously, I'm exaggerating, but like we have to put this in perspective. Kirkhorn did elaborate a little bit. That gave us a little bit more information. He said that Tesla is currently tracking to produce enough 4680 cells per week to produce 1,000 car this quarter. So that's a lot clearer, like at 60 kilowatt hour per car. That's 60 megawatt hour of 4680 cells per week, or an annual production rate of 3 gigawatt hour, which is starting to be significant here. It's not nowhere near the 100 gigawatt hour that Tesla was aiming for, but well, I think they were aiming for next year, by the end of next year. So it's not like they're behind the goal, but they're still, they're still far from that goal. Is my point. But then they kind of surprised us a little bit because it, it doesn't look like Tesla is going to be super reliant on the 4680 cells. Like it sounds like all that, at least for sure, these thousands per week are all for the Model Y production in Gigafactory Texas. Because a lot of our assumption was that Tesla Semi used the 4680 cell. During the call, Elon confirmed that's not the case, that Tesla is not using the 4680 for the cells. Didn't elaborate which cells they're using. I assume it's the 2170, but they said it's not the 4680. Then it was specifically asked to, is the 4680 cell production REMs going to be a problem for the Cybertruck production next year? And Elon says no. He didn't say don't expect it to be a problem. He didn't say that the Cybertruck is not using the 4060 itself, just that it's not going to be a problem. So that wasn't clear. I would assume they would be using the cells, but not clear. Tesla Semi, not a lot of new information on the Tesla Semi other than, yeah, it's in production, in early production right now, and first deliveries are coming in December. I already announced that. But he did put a target on total production of 50,000 Tesla Semi in 2024. So production just started right now. Elon says it takes about a year to ramp up. So they were going to be a big ramp up into 2023, and then in 2024, Tesla could have the capacity to produce 50,000 Tesla semis per year. So that would be kind of massive. We would make Tesla one of the largest Class 8 truck manufacturers. Period.
And that's that's going to be in Nevada, right?
No. I think they're gonna move the production to Texas at that point. I don't think they're gonna ever have the capacity to produce 50,000 trucks in Nevada. I don't think that's the goal.
Okay.
Yeah. From what we heard last year when we first reported that Tesla was going to produce them there, they installed a capacity for 5 trucks per week. So, but I think they're going to learn a lot from that production and then move to a much higher volume production in Texas. I know that that's something I like to track with every earnings result release is the infrastructure that Tesla is building around its business and how it compares to deliveries. And it was a very good quarter for the infrastructure. The stores and service centers increased 41 location in a single quarter. So that's much bigger throughout the last year or two. Tesla has been growing at about 18 to 25 new location per quarter. So 41 is a big increase. However, it's a 16% increase year over year compared to 42% growth in deliveries. So it's still tracking much behind deliveries. But you cannot, like, it's not equal anyway because each location is different. Some location can have much higher capacity than others. And we know that Tesla, we reported a lot on that on the last few months, that Tesla is putting a lot of efforts into service and that they're putting a lot of energy into building bigger location with a higher capacity. So each location is not equal to the other. So that we're just tracking the total number here. So it's not perfect metric. Mobile service fleet also take care of a lot of service capacity for Tesla, and that grew a lot too last quarter with 79 new cars in the fleet for a total of 1,532. Yeah, and the total stores and service location, by the way, it's 728. So Tesla has a lot of location out there now. I don't know. Should I check how many Apple stores there out there? Do we know that?
More than that.
Yeah, I would assume, but
Yeah, I don't know exactly.
yeah. On the supercharger front, also, which is a very important infrastructure for Tesla, a lot of growth. Tesla deployed 2,718 new stations for Q3. So compared to 2,500 last quarter, so it's a new record by itself. Tesla now operates 38,883 supercharger at 4,283 location. It grew 33% year over year, so that's very impressive. Again, lagging a bit behind 42% for the global deliveries. And now you have to take in mind that you cannot only compare it to the growth in deliveries for Tesla because Tesla is starting to add non-Tesla EVs to the network. So that's a lot more potential traffic at the supercharger station. So the deployment rate needs to increase a lot. But we see Tesla putting a lot of effort in that. In the shareholders letter, Tesla mentioned paid supercharging grew more than 3 times compared to the prior year, and we're working to further accelerate our deployments. We continue to expand supercharger pricing from fixed to variable to better manage vehicle flow through our network. Yeah, the variable pricing is certainly a big asset for Tesla to try to manage the traffic at those stations. But yeah, 3 times more revenue from paid supercharging than last year. That's a big increase, and I think Tesla's going to keep that growth going because especially especially now that all new EVs that Tesla deploys don't have free supercharging. You don't even have the $1,000 free supercharging. Maybe that's going to change soon. We're going to have another story to discuss later on about that. But also, obviously, the non-Tesla EVs are all paid customers and probably pay a little bit more too in the future. All right, that was announced last night. The new Tesla Quicksilver and Cherry Red were unveiled. So those are the new Tesla Model Y colors that are enabled by the supposedly like cutting edge paint shop that Tesla has at Gigafactory Berlin that Elon described as like the best paint shop in the world. That's enabling these multi-coat colors that give a lot of depth. So for the first time, we get to see them, and let me tell you, I'm extremely impressed. So there's no way to cut there's no way to cut the music on that.
Guess not.
The Instagram integration is not the best, but you see them here. The video is so much better though. Like you can see it. I'm pretty sure the video and the picture don't give it justice too, because those multi-coat uh, paint jobs, there's a lot of depth to it, so that when you see like the sun going through it, like you can see all the different variation of the color in it. It's beautiful. So big success for Tesla, I think, on that. The Quicksilver, like also like the picture there is
Wh-
nowhere near as good as I've seen in the videos. So I
What? Why?
can't.
Why do you think they only did it in Berlin as opposed to like Fremont, where you could be painting, more expensive Model S's and X's?
Yeah, multi-coats is apparently very difficult. I'm not a paint expert. Like, and there's a lot of people that there's a lot more complexity than people think. It's not like even painting a wall is like there's like an amateur painting a wall and a professional is like two different things. And then you take that on a vehicle's body instead. It's so much more complex, and also needs to withstand a much harsher environment than
Than a
walls
wall.
in your house. So hopefully, unless you're pretty hardcore. So this there's a lot to it, and apparently the new paint shop in Berlin allows for like a very complex multi-coating system to apply the paint that enables these new colors that have a lot of depth to them. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it would make a lot of, because they are not cheap. So Jamie wrote that post. I think he shared the pricing on them. Okay, so they are replacing the previous gray and red that was available. So the white is still the base one, and now the previous gray was 1,600 euros. Now it's 3,000, and the previous red was 2,000 euros. Now it's 3,200 euros. So those are not cheap color options; they're expensive. So it would make more sense to offer them in on like the Model S and X. I think they would be popular. But for now, it's going to be for just for the Model Y and Gigafactory Berlin. Elon did say something about like, yeah, we're gonna have more color in the US coming, but he didn't say that it was these ones, these multi-coat ones. Uh, we might need an upgrade at Fremont for sure.
What
I would
what
assume that
colors do
this.
you what colors do you think would be the next ones to be added?
I mean, these twos are. I think they knock it out of the park. To be honest, I'm a big fan. Like, bring that to the US, bring that to the Model X and the S. I think a lot of people are gonna go for it, even
So you
if they
think
are
they'll just bring
like.
these same colors? I thought he meant like, brown or green or something.
I mean, there's they look so good. Said I'm not joking. Like you could make like a lot of different variation of that in brown and green and all that. I know that Tesla is not a big fan of options. Like obviously, like
Hmm.
these are not new option either. They replace previous option. There's still now only 5 color options for your Model Y in Berlin. So
Is it
uh,
true that Elon hates yellow?
oh yeah, I remember
That
what
was
you're
an old
talking
meme
about.
thing.
Yeah, that was he completely denied that, by the way. I mean,
Yeah.
who likes a yellow car though? Like
It's a very narrow, where
yeah.
yellow works.
Yeah, I know the Mustang kind of popularized it a little bit. Like when Mustang started offering a yellow color, like a lot of people like went for it, but not
Was
not a
that the
big fan.
saline one?
Yeah, I'm sure Celine offered. I'm sure Celine offered. Oh, can I say that? Celine offered a yellow color.
Sorry if
I'm
I
gonna, I'm
got you
gonna
in
get.
legal
I'm,
trouble right
I'm
there.
gonna get sued. Set. Come on. Um, but yeah, I think there's definitely room for more customization, especially with the volume Tesla is selling. Like, no, Tesla's gonna sell like 600, 700,000 Model Y this year. You see a lot of them. I'm in the like not the middle of
Yeah.
nowhere, but like I'm deep in Quebec. Like I'm not near a big city or anything like that, and I see a Model Y every day. They are becoming like extremely common vehicles to have, and they're all the same colors. So like
Or they should do a
some.
wrap, maybe. Maybe they do a wrap. Like
Yeah, I
for
mean, there's a lot of people
thousands.
do them, but they are expensive. If they could offer like a factory wrap, that would be less expensive. That would be nice. A lot more
Yeah.
color options. But
I think
these multi-code though, like they're different. Like you can get some nice wrap, but like this is awesome. I think like I'm a big fan if you can tell. So
yeah.
I want to see a lot more of those. Maybe Tesla's gonna get so good with manufacturing at one point that they're gonna want to throw them some challenge at themselves, and they're like, all right, let's offer like a whole gamut of like 10 like super nice colors and
Or you know what? What if Tesla just said, "Look, here's the wheel. You pick a spot on here, and we'll computer match that color to your car." So they'll have like 64,000 colors. In
yeah,
fact, I think Tesla's going to do that. That sounds like something.
2035. They
Yes.
already have that in the car. Like you can already choose any color you want in the car
Right.
to
Exactly.
show
So
if
so
you
I
wrap it.
think they're going to have like a thing on the web where you have like a wheel and you pick somewhere on the wheel, and they're like, "Okay, we'll color match that."
But that's just for like one color. There's more to that in those cars, like Quicksilver and Midnight, like those
Right.
multi-code.
There's
It's
like
more than just our color. It's like it's the
shiny
depth.
stuff
Yeah,
and clear coat and all the other stuff.
yeah. It's a lot of depthness to like it's a bunch of different reds like put on top of each other, like create this depthness. It's pretty crazy. And the Quicksilver. I think I might like the Quicksilver more than the red. I mean, my Model S signature, like 2012 vehicle, like the signature red still looks awesome on it.
Yep.
Like it's like people always look at it as I've never seen a Tesla like that color. It's like real nice. All right, another news. Well, new Tesla news this week. Already 36 minutes to the show, and we're not even out of the Tesla news this week. But this one is another interesting one, to be honest. Like Tesla launched a new J1772 home charging station for EVs other than Tesla. So they did that last year, if you remember, for like a brief period of time. But it it looked it looked either like a test or like a surplus of connectors or what. I don't know what happened, but it was like the old Tesla charging station that they had, and they just put a J1772 connector to it. This is the new station with a new connector itself. The connect look at the connector is nice. That might be the nicest J1772 connector I've seen.
It's definitely cool.
Yeah, so far. And $550. So if you're familiar with charging station prices, this is cheap for a station that will give you is it 9 kilowatts or 11 kilowatts?
40 amps is 9.6 kilowatts.
Yeah,
So I think this goes to 48. So that'll be around 11.6 kilowatts.
yeah, 11 kilowatts, and that Wi-Fi connectivity. You get you can split the power, charge. There's a lot of features that come. Like it's basically the most advanced Wi-Fi connected station that Tesla has. All of those features available. So this is very cool for $550. Like Tesla is gonna put a lot of competition in the market. I think for that.
So do you think that this is a early sign that Tesla's going to go to CCS combo on their cars in the US?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know because
Because last time they came out, it was such a short amount of time. You know, it could have been for like Roadster owners or something that needed an adapter. Because like I think there's a Roadster adapter for this one, but there's not a Roadster adapter for Tesla's typical charger. Or maybe there is. I don't know. But now that they're really doing this thing and looks like they've spent some time designing it, it makes me think that they're gonna think about it more. Or maybe they just want to be like the everything charging brand. Because I mean,
yeah, I mean the page itself, the marketing around it to me looks more like your second option because they're making it clear this is not for a Tesla vehicle. I mean, you can still use it with a Tesla vehicle with the included J1772 Tesla connector that comes with every car. So you can use it, but like if I'm a Tesla owner, that I wouldn't gravitate towards that. First of all, it's more expensive than Tesla's own wall connector without the adapter, $150. So the $150 that you save on that, and you do it is easier than having to plug the adapter. It's like to be fair, it's like you had like 5
Also,
seconds
the
to do your
button. You know how there's a button on Tesla
yeah.
chargers. Doesn't have the button, or does it? If it does
Yeah, no,
have the
it
button,
does have a button. I don't know if it's going to operate the same as
I
the
think it might be the latch there, though.
yeah, it might just be the latch. So it's this could be an option for Tesla owners that do have a Tesla vehicle in another vehicle that is not a Tesla. Like if you have a Bolt EV and a Tesla, that could be a good option because then you
Right.
can charge both car with it. You just have to put an adapter on your Tesla when you use it for your Tesla. So I don't know, but the way the marketing around it looks, it looks to be more for like commercial properties. Like Tesla says, like if you're a developer, a manager, or owner of a commercial real estate interested in purchasing more than 12 J72 wall connectors, visit commercial charging. They talk a lot about now you can charge people with the Tesla destination charger network, so you can install some of those chargers on your property, add them to the Tesla destination charger network, and Tesla has a system to charge people for using it, so that it can be a source of revenue for people, greatly accelerate deployment of level 2 charging. So there's a lot of that at play, uh, and I would assume that a lot of people, when Tesla discuss deploying a decision charging station with them, they're like, oh yeah, but it's like just for Tesla vehicles, like can I like, and in the past Tesla even paid for like Cooper Creek's charging station level 2 J1772 for combined with their own destination chargers at
Right.
location, just because of that. So now Tesla can just use their own charging station for that. So
Yeah.
that could be just that, honestly. A lot of people says, why is it more expensive? Because it's exactly the same with Tesla's connector versus J1772. I would assume that there's a licensing fee just for using a connector. That might
I
be
think the
yeah.
J172 has a licensing fee. Yeah, you're right.
And it might be as big as the difference, like $150 difference. Like that might be just the licensing fee. It's that crazy
That would be
sometimes.
really sad, but it would
Yeah.
explain why charging stations are so expensive to begin with.
Yeah, they are hard to make cheap. You see some of them out there that are similar to that price, but they're a lot more rugged looking. They're not as fancy, and a lot of them don't have Wi-Fi connectivity like Teslas and all that.
Hmm.
All right, there was an app update this week that gave us two important information that we discussed. The first one is the consumer-facing one, so that's in the release note in the update. Tesla discussed the fact that now they have a lock screen widget that display vehicle battery range. Okay, that's cool. And that's with the new Apple update, I would assume, like that enables a lot of lock screen
Hmm.
widget now. But the biggest one is that a quick control to unlatch Model 3 and Model Y driver's door. Help, and Tesla itself wrote in the release note, helpful if the door handle is frozen. Only works with the vehicle software 2022.36 and higher. So what this does here is, you can unlock your doors already with the app, but if you unlock the door with the app, you still, once you get to your Model 3 or Model Y, you still have to press on the door handle and open it. Now, if your door handle is frozen, which I've seen happen on my car before, you can see it here. I show up to my car and I try to press it, and it just literally doesn't, like, put my full body weight on my thumb here to try to press it, and it wouldn't open because the actual door handle is frozen. What this update enables now is that even though the door is unlocked, is it's actually unlatches the door, so the door becomes unlatched. So you can just pull it, and um, if it's possible. So yeah, it's nice, but the other problem that comes with that is Tesla use frameless door windows, and you can see in that same video here a little bit later on, I finally able to press it to open one here, boom, like that, and you see the door handle is frozen. I pull it, but the window doesn't come down here, so the window is also frozen. So that's the bigger issue here. So even though if the door on latch, if the window is frozen, you're gonna have to pull it past the trim, which, I mean, you can do it. I've done it before, but it's not ideal, obviously, because you can damage your trim, you can damage the window. Also, closing it back down is a problem because then, depending on how strong you're willing to pull the door, sometimes the glass stays beyond the trim, so now you're driving around with, like, basically open air coming. It's not good. But fortunately, I haven't had that much issues in the winter since some of the last update with the preconditioning of the preheating inside. Even though in that example, I've been preheating for like 10 minutes, so
Oh wow.
It's no joke. But Tesla made some updates that did help with that. So
I have a new problem. When I open the door, the handle doesn't close all the way. So when I close the door just like it doesn't latch because the outside door handle is stuck open.
so do you have to push the handle in? Is that it? Or
It eventually closes, but
yeah,
I think I got a WD-40 the inside of it or something.
yeah, not ideal. Yeah, it's not the best design of a door handle. Like this has some cool door handle designs from the early Model S to this, but they are not have been the most
Yeah,
reliable.
it's not a good sign when you had to label above it like how to open the door like they do in
Yeah,
the Tesla taxis.
yeah. Then the other thing that comes, but that's on the back end of the mobile app update. So thanks to our friends at Tesla Scope that found it in the back end. So it's not in public feature just yet, but it's an indicator that it's going to come a public feature. Is a comeback of Tesla's referral program for vehicle, because of course the referral program has never completely gone away. It's just Tesla stopped using it for its vehicle and only use it for solar. Um, if you're not familiar with the referral program, was as simple as sharing a link, and if someone was to order a Tesla vehicle through that link, the person would get an incentive to do so. Normally, it was 1,000 miles of free supercharging, and then the person that did refer you would also get incentive, whether also 1,000 miles of free supercharging for their car, or before that it was bigger prizes that include, like, you can win a car. There was you can get $1,000 discount on a Roadster, up to 2 free Roadster, and that's probably what killed the program right there, because Tesla,
For sure.
Tesla, well,
A
a
new
lot of
car.
people, huh?
A new car.
Yeah, a lot of people don't remember that period well. They're like, "Oh, Tesla like screwed up, like they didn't like think this through, or whatever," or they say like, "Oh, the program was abused by some of the more influential like Tesla influencer."
Who are you talking about, Fred?
I mean, Electrek got 6 Roadster. Like,
So
oh, we abused it. You have to remember that
we
time
did
when it was like Tesla was having issues during that time. Like it was like the old demand is not an issue. Like Tesla says a lot in the last few years. Like, yeah, it wasn't an issue, but back then it was. Like Tesla was trying to sell those Model S and X, and then of course the Model 3 and Y came to play. Model Y not so much. I think the program was basically dead by the time the Model Y came. Model
yeah.
Y is probably what's like saved Tesla. Like without the Model Y, Tesla would have been in issues, because there was a lot of problem ramping up Model 3 production. So during that time, Tesla needed that program to work. Then yes, they definitely they definitely kind of screw up with saying, oh, you can even get 2, and they probably didn't think that so many people would get free Roadster. So from our own calculation, Tesla owes about 80 new Roadsters for free. But that's just one part of the thing. They also hold like significant discounts to a lot of people, and I would assume that a lot of them will want to buy them with a discount, because even if you don't want to if you don't want to drive the car, you can just resell it and make some money. So there's probably like tens and tens of millions of dollars owed in.
Yeah, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not a lot for a company the size of Tesla nowadays.
No, it's not for the company size of days, and you have to account for the value of the referrals. Like the
Right.
referral program did work a lot. Like it did work. So yeah, the people did people like Ling or herself did some marketing work for Tesla. There's no doubt about it. It's as plain as that. And Tesla now owe money for that
And
in the form of cars.
I think Tesla Twitter is going to be excited to know that Fred and I will now be super Tesla fans again now that the referral program's open. We're not
Yeah.
going.
Uh, I don't know exactly what that's gonna look like. Obviously, said it's kidding. We're not gonna change our opinion on this stuff just because they are or putting out the referral program again. And now I say that, and I'm gonna sounds like I say that because it's not gonna be as exciting of a program again. But it's the truth. It's just not gonna be as exciting a
They're
program
not
again. I
giving
think
away
this is
roasters anymore.
yeah, they're not gonna win Roadster or anything like that. It sounds like based on the back end of the code, it looks like free supercharging miles are coming back, and that's cool. I do like this. Like that's not 1,000 free supercharging miles for Tesla. It doesn't cost that much. Um, though we did have some information, and when Tesla shut down the program, that quarter alone it was costing them like $23 million in free supercharging miles.
That's
So
crazy.
it's still not cheap, but not a lot in the grand scheme of things when you're trying to sell cars at a 27.9% gross margin.
Right.
Like it's not that big of a deal.
Right.
So because that's not even a few $100 per car. But of course, it's both sides. Yeah, that's what you have to keep in mind too. It's like it's 1,000 free supercharging mile on a new car, but like the person that referred the car, I don't know if it's going to be 1,000 or whatever, but it looks like the free supercharging miles coming back. And then it also looked like Tesla's going to be credit for accessories in the Tesla store, so that could be interesting. Tesla has some cool things in there that some people will want. But what I'm more interested in is like what we heard last year. Tesla was preparing this new referral program, and we were hearing that Tesla was going to rely more on the app itself. So that makes sense now that we're seeing that some back end of the code is referencing a new referral program. So we were right about that, it sounds like. But what I was hearing is like Tesla wanted to reduce the reliance on like people just spamming their referral links on social media, on websites, and all that. And it's going to be more like person to person. So, like maybe like you send the app to someone like, oh, you should download the Tesla app and whatever, and then you get a referral from that. I don't know exactly how it's going to work. No one's though, but it looks like it's getting closer to being released because it's now in the back end of the Tesla mobile app.
And do you think the fact that the referral program is opening back up, that Tesla is now thinking that it's going to be able to meet its supply, so meet demand,
Yeah.
and it's going to have some extra supply? Is that a sign, early sign of that?
So we should that's a good question, Sarah, because we should mention that there's been a lot of doubts about Tesla's demand lately, and enough that Elon had to address it at the earnings this week. And he stuck to his speech that demand is not an issue for Tesla. We don't see demand being an issue in the foreseeable future, and blah blah blah. Okay, which I think is probably right about that and everything. But I also think that Tesla sees their production capacity increasing at an extremely fast pace, a lot of competition coming in, and they know how successful the referral program was in the past, and they just want to replicate it. I think
Yeah.
that makes it just a ton of sense.
Yeah. A lot more supply coming. So
Yeah.
they want to get those out the door.
All right, Seth, talk to us about this winter towing test that you did with the F-150 Lightning. You went to a friend's house and played around with her tiny house, trying to power it and do some
Yeah. So
yard work.
it's not quite winter yet, but it was about 40 degrees. And that's like what, 6 degrees Celsius. Um, so I have a buddy. Actually, if we have some time, I'll tell a little about what he's doing. He's trying to build a little village of tiny homes, and I'm not sure if you're familiar, but in New York State, weed is legal to consume. It's legal to grow, but it's not legal to sell. So he's gonna have like a little like he's on a farm, and he's gonna have like a little crop going, like for wheat.
Oh, I know where this is going.
Yeah. So
Is he gonna let so you can
y- er,
you buy the Airbnb or the Airbnb experience or whatever, and then that includes like access to the weed. So you're not selling weed, you're selling an Airbnb experience that includes weed.
that's
That's
exactly it.
smart as hell.
Yeah.
Smart dude.
So this is his like prototype, and it's pretty simple. Like obviously there's plumbing stuff is a little bit more complicated, but what's kind of
Okay.
nice is I was able to just plug into the Ford Pro Plower and heat the home from the Ford at 1 kilowatt, which isn't too much, and that would heat the home for days. So that was pretty cool. So that's aside. But what we did is we loaded up his trailer. You can see the big Tex trailer there. It's about 6 feet high, 7 feet wide, and we took that up a mountain to where his little village is starting. And we there's a lot, like when you put a trailer on to an F-150, there's a lot of like settings to do. You have to, what's the weight of the trailer, what's the um the height and the width of the front, and you balance it so there's not too much weight on the back wheels and not too much weight on the front wheels of the F-150. So we did all that. We went up the hill. About 6 miles in, our range went from about 130 miles of range to 68 miles of range, like that. Like
Mhm.
and I hadn't done my home.
What's the weight of that trailer? Because looks huge.
Yeah, it's like 5,000 pounds.
Yeah. Okay.
It was like 5,000 pounds loaded. So I didn't do my homework at that point. I didn't know that it like reconfigured, and I was like, holy
Mm,
crap! Like, are we going to even make it back? We just dropped 60 miles of range. Um, and we kept going up, and we were going down a lot slower. So at the beginning, we were going like 160, 155, 160,
mm,
150. So like we were taking big jumps down in range. And then once we went in half, the range was like kind of more like what we were
mm,
expecting. So by the time we got up there, I think I only had like 60 miles of range, which is fine, because it's only a few miles away, and we were going uphill, so coming back would
mm,
be downhill. Um, and it did fine. We extrapolated out. If I had the full battery, it would have probably been about 130 miles of range on flat ground. So then I drove it cross country, stopped in Ohio, visited my folks, compared it to a Bolt EV size wise, kind of silly, and then continued on to Detroit, where we did another towing test. This time it was Ford, kind of taking me through everything, and they had their own trailer, and it was a lot more measured. So in that case, we got to it was an 8x8 front trailer. It was 8,000 pounds, so quite a bit heavier, and we towed it to kind of the airport area. So uh, like Dearborn to the airport's about 15 miles ish, and then we towed it back, and we did a little bit of street driving in between. And overall, we were getting about a mile per kilowatt hour, driving at 55 to 60 miles per hour. And when we went up to 65 to 70 miles per hour, we saw a huge drop in the
makes
efficiency,
sense.
so down to point 0.8. So I had lots of observations and takeaways, but the big one was that you can get good range um, towing. You just have to be reasonable about it. You have to do all the measurements that Ford wants you to do, but the reality is you can't drive 70 miles per hour. That's kind of the big one. If you drive 55 miles per hour, you're going to get over a kilowatt. Sorry, over a mile per kilowatt. The Ford F-150 has 130 kilowatt hour battery, so you're looking at least 130 miles. And then this one was the decked out one.
Mm-hmm.
So if you had a um, less, that there's a model of the F-150 that has 320 miles of range. I think you're over 150 miles if you tow with that one, a big load. So that was kind of my takeaway. And it wasn't winter; like it was 40 degrees and raining in Detroit. So when it gets down colder, there are other things, other mitigations like precondition, which works really good with all EVs. And the thinking there is like when you're pulling something, the batteries are working a little bit harder, the motor's working a little bit harder, so that kind of heats the cabin and the batteries, so you don't have to spend a lot of extra electricity doing that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just good experience checking that stuff out. There's been some like silly YouTubes and TikToks or whatever that, oh, I can't believe the range on this with towing is so bad, that kind of stuff. So it was good to see firsthand it wasn't that bad.
I mean, yeah, you have to expect when you're
Right.
towing more than the weight of the car at one point, it's gonna
Right.
affect the efficiency regardless of your mode
Right.
of propulsion.
And like really bad aerodynamics on those things as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. Speaking of electric pickup trucks, GMC unveiled the 2024 GMC Sierra EV Denali Edition One. So the first one they're going to produce, they're taking this very similar approach as the Hummer EV. So there's the Edition One first. It's going to be more expensive, but it's going to be fully decked out with 400 miles of range, crab walk, just like the Hummer EV, and it looks slick. So, I mean, might be worth getting the Edition One just for the look here. Look at that. It's a nice looking truck.
Yep. And you're right.
Um,
It has a lot of Hummer things on it, like the crab
yeah.
walk, and I think it's got 200 kilowatt hour battery as well. Same battery, to get the 400 miles of
Yeah.
range.
Oh, look at that front right there.
Yep, it's
Could
big.
put a bunch
Although
of dead bodies easy.
the F-150 is a
I
little bit
mean,
bigger, but
grocery.
yeah, like the way you think.
That's still the front there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
take a
Cool.
look real quick at the go back there, and there's a if you look at the buttons there on the yeah that it
Yeah.
says oh it's not there, but on another screenshot it had that with like a crazy amount of it was like 120 kilowatt hours or something or kilowatts. Anyway,
All right, so the Sierra, like the gas powered version, you have another configuration which is nice. So you have a lot of box length change, and you can have the standard box at 5'11", so almost 6 feet. Multi Pro mid gate engage, it's 9.1. Multi Pro engage with the load stop engage, you have 10.10 feet of box length. So this is significant. They demonstrated that with this. Like that's the what do you call that again? It's the tailgate load stop engage. So this is this thing right there. You can put a full size paddle board.
yeah, and that's similar to
Mhm.
the GM or sorry the Chevy Silverado has
Yeah.
similar features like that.
All right. The other spec, performance spec. So you, uh, standard, the highest performance mode. Okay, up to 9,500 pounds of towing capacity. That's nice.
Yep.
Do you have the battery? No, they don't. They're not disclosing the battery capacity, but they say 24 modules. If we know how many modules there was in the Hummer EV, we could tell you if it's the same
I,
200 kilowatt hour pack. But I would assume so, right?
yeah, I think so,
Um,
especially with 400 miles of range. That the
do we
Hummer
have the
has.
weight of that thing? I mean, I'm sure if it's not as heavy as the Hummer, it could make a big difference. But max power output of 700, 754 horsepower, 0 to 16 under 4.5 seconds.
So not quite Hummer
No,
acceleration, but still pretty nice for a big truck.
250 kilowatt charging capacity. It is on the 800-volt system. They also have a dual charging for 19.2 kilowatt on level 2. That's also good. The bi-directional charging, so the Power Station Pro on board offers up to 10.2 kilowatts of board power. So that's
Oh,
also
interesting. That's more than the Silverado had, I think,
mhm.
and it's on par with Ford's.
You know, is that really the interior?
I think
Yeah, it
so.
looks just like the Ford, the Lightning Mackie.
Yeah, and you know it's kind of I don't know what the word is, but it has that exact same volume scroll
Yeah,
wheel glued on there. Yeah,
yeah. That's like no qualms whatsoever. You're like, yeah,
right.
we'll just straight up cup hit.
Yeah, Ford probably should have patented that. If such a
Yeah. Yeah,
but
yeah, look, it's exactly the same.
yeah,
Looks
it
good though.
works. It works.
Interior looks good though. Looks clean.
Yep.
Well, not too busy. Like all the buttons are like these little switches underneath the. I
Yeah.
like those. Those are like rugged looking and makes the rest a lot clearer. Kind of like Tesla inspired, like just one long fan slid all across the dashboard.
Yeah.
Also cool. Oh, the paddle board, okay, that's with the paddle board inside too. Like it
Yeah, they
gets
have
inside
that
the cabin.
same I forget what they call that, but that doorway that goes out to the back. And you know, obviously you can kind of turn it into a convertible a little bit, leave
Mhm.
it open while you're driving.
Do we have okay, so they don't so that's a 2024 Denali edition 1. So
107,000.
yeah, deliveries start in early 2024 starting at 107,000. And then there's going to be the 2025 model year that's going to come I assume at the end of 2024, and then you're going to have the cheaper version that's going to start all the way down to 50,000 units. Um, we'll see. We don't have like a clear indication of the rollout. Like I wouldn't be surprised if it's going to be similar to the Hummer EV, where Like it starts 107,000, and it starts technically at 80,000, but like it takes them years to get there because they go from the top version to the like mid range version and so forth. So between $50,000 and $107,000, there's a lot of room for different versions there.
Yeah.
So we'll see when that $50,000 MRSP is available, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's not in the 2025 model year. But we'll see. I would could be pleasantly surprised, because you have to keep in mind a lot of like the main thing that came out of this, like people see the $107,000 price target. Of course, it's just for the additional one, so that's confusing. But then you compare it to a Sierra pickup truck, gas powered pickup truck, and that starts at $40,000. So a lot of people are like, hey, boy. But this is the first EV version of it, and then a lot of cheaper versions going to roll out in the future. Speaking of cheaper EV, Rolls Royce. Rolls Royce. I have so much issue mentioning that. Rolls Royce. The Spectre. That's their first electric vehicles. They've been teasing it with. They had this prototype that they've been showing around for the last few years, and now they have. Those are renders, I would assume. That they're all renders that they unveiled this week. So it's not a full unveiling. They just unveiled some specs and the design through those renders. It looks sharp though. Like if you're a fan, the Rolls Royce always look kind of the same. They have a few versions, of course, but this one is built on the Phantom platform. I don't know if they have the same feature where you cannot grab that thing. Have you seen that before,
It
sir?
like ducks down or something.
Yeah, it ducks down when you try to grab it. It's pretty badass. But yeah,
That
hyper
sounds like a
luxury.
challenge.
Yeah. This whack-a-mole type of thing they
Yeah.
put like grabbing. Um, yeah, it's built on the same platform as the Phantom Coupe that they have already, gas-powered version. So this is like the AV version of that. So some of the specs that were released: 577 horsepower, 664 foot-pound of torque. Um, Talking about 4.4 seconds 0 to 60, but of course Rolls Royce are not known for their acceleration. They're more known for the luxury itself. They haven't released too much information about the batteries, but they did say that they are aiming for an EPA range of up to 260 miles, which is not bad. Nothing on the charging capacity. Pricing, they didn't specify it, but they said it would be priced between the Cullinan SUV, which starts at $350,000, and the Phantom, which starts at $46,000,
400.
$460,000. And its deliveries are expected to begin in late 2023. So we're gonna have to learn a lot more about it. Until then, it's not quite there yet. But this is design and some basic info.
I wonder who's going to go on that test drive.
I know some people at Rolls Royce. I can reach out. I don't think they're quite there yet. I think we're still about a year away from any kind of media drives. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to show up in a suit for that one, like
Yeah.
for the video. Like you cannot just show it in shorts for
A
a
bottle of
Rolls.
champagne and just, I mean, the test drive would be in the back, right?
Yes,
That's
that's what
who's
I was
buying
gonna
it.
say. Yeah, we're
Yeah,
gonna
test fitting.
hire a driver for a test drive and just be in the back and tell the driver where to go. That would be a fun video, actually. Like, we
Drunk on
like
champagne.
this is Fred with Electrek for the test drive of the Rolls Royce Spectre. For this test drive, we actually hired Jonathan here, who's going to be a driver. I'm going to be sitting in the back for the whole test drive. All right, if you guys have any question for us, put them in right now. We're not gonna have that much time to get to it because we're already way over an hour into the show. But we had a lot of discussion in the comment section right now, so we're gonna try to find some of the questions or anything we can discuss and get to it.
All right. Dan Oberst, longtime listener. He says if you spurn Elon like Apple and the Saudis, he's going to grow larger than you out of spite. So perhaps that's why Elon used the Saudis and Apple for the size comparison.
Yeah. Yeah, because technically Elon is the richest man in the world, but you have some Saudis out there that probably have some money that we don't know about.
Of course.
Like like whatever the valuation is of Saudi Aramco, like that's a guess basically. Like,
Right. In terms of size, what ICE vehicles might be comparable to Tesla's future smaller vehicle?
Yeah, I think like a golf size car, a Bolt TV size vehicle. I think that makes a lot of sense.
I definitely
Uh,
like the idea of a hatchback.
yeah, a smaller hatchback like a Bolt TV would make a ton of sense for me.
All right, Spike 43 says, question, do you think the improvement in energy is showing less ability to put those batteries into cars? I expect a big Q4, but a pullback in Q1 for cars.
So do you think the improvement in energy is showing less
So like
ability
it
to put those? I
the
know. I think the priority is always putting the batteries in the cars, and then the leftovers end up in stationary storage. So I don't think that's going to be a problem. However, there has been instances of Tesla delivering more in Q4 than it does in Q1, and that keep with their quarter-to-quarter growth. I don't think this is going to be the case because to me it sounds like Tesla like they bit the bullet this time, and they're like, we're not doing the big end of the quarter. We're not as big of a end of quarter push. So uh, if they do that in Q4 like they did in Q3, that would put them in good space for Q1 to be bigger in Q1 and Q4.
All right, interesting question here from Dan. Has Electric heard anything about using mega packs for electric cargo ships? Seems a perfect form factor for shipping, unload spent batteries, load full ones, add number of needed based on distance. Um, it does seem like a good situation, but I certainly haven't heard anything about that.
Yeah, I don't think the like I know what you're saying about like if it's container size, you can just like lift it like any other container and then like put new ones instead of the charging or whatever, uh, or to charge them. But I don't think that's the right way to look at it. Really, I don't think the mega packs are optimized to charge a boat. And the boats actually they stay a decent amount of time at the docks when we're talking about large cargo boats like it takes a while to unload them and load them back. So there's plenty of times to charge them while they're there. You don't need to remove the battery packs or anything like that. And the first like it's not exactly the same obviously, but like we don't have any large scale electric cargo boats. There are some in the work though. um, that are coming up. But I think they're gonna get inspired from like the ferry industry that they have like extremely high powered chargers at the docks, and I think we're gonna see the same thing for cargo ships.
All right, Green Gold says Tesla needs to make a cheaper model, or GM will get all of that market share in the robo taxi as Vaporware Deluxe.
Yeah, but that comments does make sense if you believe that FSD is vaporware. Indeed, GM does seem to be positioning itself extremely strongly at the lower hand of the market. Actually, everywhere in the market because they are with the Denali edition one. They are also the higher end of the market.
Yeah, the
Well,
Hummer.
obviously, I think Green Gold here is referring to the Equinox,
Right.
and yeah,
The Bolt.
that's gonna be if they ramp that up quickly. I think the Equinox is gonna be a big seller. There's no doubt about it. But there's still plenty of room for Tesla and other people too.
All right. Someone from Norway, I believe, says how many semis in the US market before they start shipping globally? What's your guess on that?
Oh, it's so hard to guess when Tesla expands beyond North America. That's the question basically here. So and it's more complicated with semi trucks too, because the differences in terms of regulations are much wider than they are with the passenger vehicles. So you might have to hold your breath for a while, unfortunately.
All right, Green Gold's back saying if EVs are going to make it in the market, then they're going to have to get cheaper or they will never be marketable for the general public.
No, that's like yes, technically yes, for sure. Like the cheaper you go, but you need to stop thinking about the days of like people buying Hyundai Accent at like a $9,000 news. Like the average new car sale price in the U.S. is like $43,000 for a new car right now, non-electric. Like, the EV adoption is all about new vehicle purchase. It's not about used vehicle purchase. Though I'm very glad that the US is adopting tax credit for the used car EVs. Like that's going to help a lot of people. That's going to help a lot of people go electric on the lower end of the market. But in terms of EV adoption, it's all about the new car market. And the new car market, cars are expensive, and EVs are not that much expensive than those cars right now. And when you take into account the cost of operation, they are cheaper. So it's not the right way to go at it. However, you're also right that if you can make one cheaper, like a $25,000 electric car, then of course you expand the market. But it's not that critical at the same time. It's just going to accelerate things a little bit.
All right. Sandy Monroe said that Tesla is hamstrung in Fremont with their paint shop using the old Saturn one. It's poor quality. Well, I would be surprised if they kept the
What?
Saturn paint shop.
Yeah, what's Armstrong means?
Just like it's stuck. Like they can't do anything.
Okay, the bottleneck in Fremont is paint.
I guess so.
Is that what
Or
Sandy Monroe is saying? I'm not aware of that at all. I don't know if I know they have two paint shops now. They have a new name.
I feel like they could.
They don't just have a Saturn paint shop. They have two paint shop now. They built a new one since the old days. So
I feel like they're not using the old one. All right. Nobody says that new Tesla red looks as good as Mazda's deep red, which is better than any Ferrari color.
Nobody says that. That confused me for a second. The guy's name is Nobody for people that are just listening. I haven't seen a Mazda that looks that good in a long time. They do have a nice. Maybe I haven't seen a new red from Mazda, but they do have a nice red for sure. Mazda is kind of popular here in Quebec. I see a lot of Mazdas, but
Really?
yeah.
I see fewer and fewer.
But this new deep cherry, whatever it's called, I've never seen a car red looks that good. It reminds me a bit of the Roadster prototype. The Roadster prototype had an insanely nice paint too.
That's true.
Red paint.
All right, we're getting toward the end here. Last call for questions. Dan says, I heard that from TFL Trucks, they estimated the Denali battery size as 212 kilowatt hours. Well, I mean, we know that the Hummer EV has a 207 or something kilowatt hour battery. It's probably the same battery.
Yeah.
Like, maybe some changes to it, but I doubt it. All right, Nanda Holes, how likely would third gen Tesla be full die-cast frame like the early Giga Press patent filing pics showed? The ultimate Hot Wheels for adults.
Yeah, Tesla has talked about that before. That's the ultimate goal. Like just printing a car, like die casting a car, like you do Hot Wheels, and they are getting closer to that. However, I think it would be a big bet to design that right now. I think if Tesla had the Cybertruck already, like in production, and they learned from that, I think they would have the confidence to do okay. Let's because this is going to be a giant investment of a platform here. Because I think he said it's going to. If they do that, they aim to sell more of vehicle on that platform than they do all of the other platform combined, which would make sense. If they can achieve a $25,000 to $30,000 price tag, they would sell a lot of those. But that's a big bet to make for such a giant change. I think the big rear casting, bigger front casting on Model Y, going to Cybertruck with the whole exoskeleton casting, like that would make sense. And then you go to the full body die cast after that for the new platform. But Tesla looks like he's gaining confidence on that, so that might be the case. Nanda might be right. All right, well that's it for us for this episode. That was a long one. Often happens with the Tesla earnings. I hope you appreciated it. If you did, and only if you did, of course, please give us a thumbs up, a like, or whatever it is on your platform that you're listening right now, because we are everywhere at Electrek. We don't discriminate on the platform. And you can also, if you're listening on your podcast app right now, whether you're on Apple, on Spotify, whatever, if you can give us a 5-star reviews on those help tremendously. It's free to do. It takes a second, and we appreciate every single one. Like we appreciate every single one of you listening right now. I hope you have